Hi there. This is Tone, Flame's duophonic melody looper, sequencer and quantizer. And this, you can already hear it in the background, is FM Cosmos, our quad polyphonic 6-operator FM voice. Other modules from our lineup, whether familiar or not so familiar, include Fire, our 8-voice drum and percussion synthesizer. I've covered that in my last video. And Takt, our 8-track modulation, groove, timing hub. The latter two got also covered by Synthtad. I'll link to it in the description. A few other CV sources that will pop up throughout the video. For instance, the Q slider, which is currently connected to the morph. You can see it here, which morphs between two versions of every patch. So Cosmos has the same feature as Fire, which is great. Q-Slider is a min-max module, as simple as that. If you wonder where the cables go or come from, there's a detached expander, which is up here to the left, and it's connected via a ribbon cable underneath the modules. So this is perfect to avoid cable clutter, and as you can see, necessary because this would be very messy very quickly. Then there's Airlictron, which is a simple proximity sensor-based modulator. Our classic, the C3 knob recorder, which is modulating the black filter bank, which is an analog filter bank but with sequenceable bands. Last but not least, two modules that are not from our range. The excellent Dual LPG by Tominsky, aka Danny Sound. And this is one of my all-time favorites. It's a module from 2013, the Equation Composer by Micro. It's kind of a 8-bit synth voice, noise source, a bag of tricks, if you want to say so. And this is the Dropbox Typhon outside the frame. It's currently connected to channel 2 of Tone via MIDI, and it will do the bass lines. This isn't a deep dive or full walkthrough like I did with Fire. It's more about giving you a taste of how FM Cosmos sounds. I'll also explore a few presets later on, and to show you how Tone works in general. And of course, you'll hear bits and bobs from all over the patch. So, let's turn some knobs. So let's break it down real quick for Tone. This is a dual channel melody looper or sequencer. It works with MIDI. Flame uses the TRS-B standard. It comes with a cable as well and an adapter. The analog outputs, CV, velocity, so 1 volt per octave, and velocity and gate, You use these breakout cables. They also come with the module. And you can use either or you can use both at the time. Why that makes sense, I'll show you that in a minute. Each channel, so track 1 when it's not lit, track 2 when it's lit, plus the mutes, can record notes with different length, range, step count. You can do polyrhythms, you can go crazy on 16th notes. You can randomize things like velocity or gate, glide. You can re-record them at a later point, which is absolutely superb. And as far as entering notes goes, you use, I have to start the sequence real quick, the built-in distance sensor. I hope you can see the notes here changing. Or you use the knob and dial in specific notes. You do record by holding shots or single. Single is for single notes. Shots is like the rolls effect on the MPC. We use it a lot in our recent modules. It's it's a cool way to record or to perform, because if you don't press it, it doesn't record. So this is real handy. One last thing that is very important: the scale, the whole quantization process is happening post-recording. So this means you can record your notes. Tone records the voltages, not the notes, and then at a later point change the scale, change the octave range, transpose it, and so on. All post-recording. This is super, super handy. One last thing, MIDI in-out. We already covered that. Clock. It has a clock, analog clock, and reset in and out. You can send in CVs and use one of the channels as a quantizer and the other one for sequencing duties. You can save 128 patches. Sequences can be up to 4 bars or 64 steps. It saves all the states, so everything, also the mute states. I'll show you that real quick. So this receives program change from Takt, as all these 4 modules do. If I reload this, you see it just changed. And one more thing, there is an edit mode, which if you press the 2 buttons at the same time, you can skip through the steps and show what's on a step by holding single. Via this functionality, you can change everything, also the velocity, gate, and glide settings. It is, of course, a bit fiddlier, but absolutely doable. Let's get started with punching in a few notes. There's something recorded in. I'll delete that. You do that by holding shots without any activity. So there we go. Let's do this one first. So let's say I want to have, I don't know, as easy as that. I want to change the octave. So the octave range. That is nice. And maybe see? That's how you change the scale afterwards. Let's stop there real quick. And I could still perform over it without recording. By the way, the bassline is the Dreadbox Typhon. And I'm gonna show you something, which is, let's delete that again. And let's change, yeah, the starting point and that's nice. So I've mapped the velocity to the filter cutoff on Typhon. And if I'm not in the scale setting where I record notes, but in the velocity setting, I can dial in and re-record a different velocity by holding shots and turning this. So and this is handy. Let's change the gate length. This is superb. I think that's how you enter notes and record notes with tone in a nutshell. I think this shines with repetitive patterns, just like the bass line you heard. Also, acid bass lines work really well, but it also works really nicely with slow stuff. So, for instance, I've reloaded the patch from the beginning, and that's Cosmos right now, the Blade Runner patch. And I've recorded that. Let's put in a bass line. I've matched the scales. Oh, there we go. And that's very, very nice. And yeah, I think you can come up with cool, happy accidents, sometimes not so happy. It needs a bit of practice, but it makes a lot of fun. And there's one last thing I mentioned in the beginning. You can use the MIDI and analog outs at the same time. So I'm sending, in the previous patch, I'm sending MIDI out to Cosmos. And I'm also sending the volt per octave to the Microbe. It's a bit detuned, but that's okay. There's also velocity from both channels going to, I think, the oscillator and the detune. The gate at the moment, or the trigger, is coming from Takt because I need a short one. I could re-record one. I could, of course, also use the gate from Tone, but it's a tad too long. You really need like plucky triggers for that. But I think you get the idea. So this with other modules, as I mentioned, for instance, an effect, reverb or something like that, you can do really, really nice things. And yeah, let's move on to this fella right here, FM Cosmos. Nice. So let's get through the panel real quick. First of all, the 8 encoders always match the 8 parameters. There's no second page here. Load loads either user sounds, if you use the dial knob, or the preset banks, which are categorized into bass, keys, pads, percussive, and so on. If you press it long, it's so. If you hold it long, you save a sound. Again, you have the 8 knobs for 8 letters. Then you have ins and outs, MIDI in, clock through, gate, 1 over per octave, and velocity for analog sequencers, morph in for the morphing between 2 versions of a patch, and CV1 and CV2 and the stereo outs. Effects toggles between the 3 effects, which is chorus, delay, and reverb. AB, we'll get into that in a second. And setup is for DSV destinations, MIDI channel, program receive, and so on, SysEx dumps. And let's get into the master page. Overall level, portamento, low and high cut filter, morph, the feedback operator, overall time and shape of the operator envelopes. Main algorithms, you can choose out of 32 of them. Then you have fine tune, octave up and down, root node, mono or poly mode, which means if you're in poly mode, it works only with MIDI and it's a 4-voice synth. If it's in mono mode, it works with the 1 word per octave in and a regular analog sequencer, but this doesn't mean it can't do chords. It can do chords, and quite a lot of them. There's an extensive list here. You can also CV that and detune. Last but not least, the 6 buttons down there are the 6 operators. And if you're in one of the operator pages, if you click the encoder and hold it, you see the current algorithm. So this is handy to kind of get to know where you are. Black is always carrier, white is modulator, and the little lines here, that's the feedback. And yeah, I think that's about it. One important note on the design: the FM Cosmos has different ratios than the DX7. That's also why you cannot load DX7 pages. Also, the DX7 had tons more envelopes, so the comparison is not really fair. But the important thing is that the ratios we use in the FM Cosmos are loosely based on the DX100. And why that matters is the musicality. The DX7 had 3000 possible values per operator, which is extremely powerful, but also chaos. However, the DX100's ratios were quantized to musical intervals, which means less math and more music. It's still pretty hard to come up with exactly what you want, because FM synthesis is not easy, but it makes it a lot easier to find sweet spots and not just pure noise. Let's try something. I was messing around with this electric piano sound. Yeah. It's far from an electric piano, and let's make something simpler, which, for example, something like a bass line or organ sound. What you would use for this is a classic kind of 1-to-1 setting, which means you have one carrier and one modulator. Both run at the same ratio, hence 1-to-1, and the frequency is the same but the modulator changes the phase of the carrier. So you get strong but linear overtones, and if you dial the modulator just a bit, the sound gets rounder, and with a bit of luck, it sounds like a bass line. And so first we gotta find an algorithm. We gotta find an algorithm that has what I said earlier. So ideally one black and one white box, or two black and one white. This one is good. So you have two carriers, one modulator, no feedback shenanigans, and if you bring down I'll go here. Yeah. Well, this is almost organ M1, kind of house organ. Just a little bit of modulator to give it a bit of the pluckiness, and that sounds cool. It's okay. I mean, it's not hit material, but you get the idea. Before I go through a few preset sounds, I will quickly show you the morph feature. Let's continue with the bass sound from before. And turn it down a bit. So if I go into one of the operators and press the B button, I hear what's saved there. And to start, let's say this is a bass sound, so we don't want to go drastic like. There was a different sound, so the B settings are still from the sound before. And sometimes this works. This can actually lead to cool trial and error results, but with the bass, it doesn't sound that good. So the first thing we want to do is copy the A version to the B version, and while you're in the operator mode, it doesn't matter which, you just hold AB, and both are the same. If I morph here with the fader, nothing happens. So what you would do now is change the B version to, I don't know, something like let's say we want to have this. If we're in the master menu, that sounds okay to me. And the cool thing is, let's say the B version gets effects, but you want effects on the A version as well, but they shall be different. You can do that as well. So first, A, B is not lit. This means we're in version A of the patch. Press effects. I don't want a chorus. I don't want a delay. I want. That's fine for now. Just a small delay and reverb, sorry. And the same thing when you're in the operator modes. You hold AB and press set. It's exactly the same thing. So hold it, press set. Now, the effects version of A is copied to B. And let's make this more drastic. And let's say, for now, let's turn this down. We also want to add delay. Yeah, and then a bit of that and a bit of it's too much right now, obviously, but for demonstration purposes, this makes sense. So if we leave that, we're back, and we have the sound and the effects, the changed effects. And let's say we don't want them, we were happy with the initial setting, then you go back to effects, hold A, press set, and we're back to the subtle reverb. And last but not least, let's say I want to save this patch, and you do that by pressing the load save button for, I don't know, 1 or 2 seconds, and then these are the 8 letters. I'm happy with solid, but let's say, oh wait, there's D. I want to call it solid effects. Click the dial and you're done. If you made it that far and had the patience to stick with me, I appreciate it a lot. If not, I appreciate it too. It will get better over time. This is a lot of work and editing nightmare in between computer crashes, internet issues, and whatnot. I'll get over it. I got over it. It will get better. There will be more videos, and I hope you enjoyed it nonetheless. See ya.